So often we are predisposed to really muscling through things and bringing a lot of strength, or like being kind of soft and really mellow. And maybe it's depends on the day or even the pose that we're doing or the activity. And there is such a magic that happens when we learn how to balance strength and ease, that softness, that lightness, with a lot of integration and support. So today's class is focused on helping us all integrate a little more strength in poses that can be quite deep, right? So instead of just like pushing into them with the muscles or like relaxing in them in an unintegrated way, we're going to try to use both of those skills to feel really amazing in some of these challenging poses. So with that, we can begin with a little extra breathing upright. It's so important as we approach poses that have the opportunity to challenge us with extra breath, right? The breath is going to make sure we don't go beyond our safety. It's going to make sure we're staying inside, we're staying supported. And so let's begin by finding a comfortable seat. Take a moment if you need to grab a cushion, a blanket, whatever would help you feel supported so you can relax. If it's comfortable, you can close the eyes. And allow the breath to be really natural. And just notice the gentle rise and fall. And try to let go of any urge to breathe deeper or draw in more breath. Instead, try to bring more consciousness to the breath that's already there. And it's very common to favor the inhale, so give the exhale a little extra attention. Sometimes that means slowing it down, giving it a little space. And taking time to empty out and just be in that empty space until the inhale naturally comes to you. And just take a few more breaths and try to notice the physical sensations of the breath and the inner support that the breath provides. And then keeping that awareness, we'll transition to our backs with the right side of our body facing the screen, so you can turn to the left. And if your space provides, it will be nice to have a little bit of space on both sides because we're going to be doing a little bit of rolling. So if you need to scoot your mat around so that you can roll to the back and roll to the front without knocking over anything, take your time. And then once you recline, do a little check, reach your right arm out and make sure the right arm is stretching closer to the screen. Now we're in a new orientation. Walk the feet wide, let the shoulders walk down the back, and then come back to the breath. Again, just notice the gentle rising and falling, and imagine your body's like a blow-up raft or a balloon, and imagine the breath as that inner support that inflates you and provides an inner buoyancy. And if you're following along with music, you can hit play on the first track. I think it's something about ships, all the ships. We'll start with gently circling the feet, and let this be really gentle so there's no strain in the ankles, but just start to notice the massage sensation in the heels. Hey Angeli, glad you could make it. Hope you're feeling okay. Take it easy and skip anything you need to. And as you continue to gently circle the feet, notice the sensation of the back of the pelvis. You might even be able to sense the femurs gently rotating. And then go the opposite direction with the feet. If they ever get tired, you can pause. That's totally fine. We don't want any strain in the body. That's really important in all yoga classes, but especially today when there are some more challenging poses. We need to put ourselves in this mindset of finding support, finding ease, and enjoying that part of the journey, so there's no destination or pushing mindset. Next time the toes point forward, let the legs relax and just take a moment to notice the warmth in the legs. And then slowly circle the arms overhead. Let the backs of the hands rub against the floor, a little extra tactile feedback. Point toes, reach through arms, and feel where arms and legs meet in your center. Lift the left leg, cross it over the right, and slowly reach the left leg out to roll over the right side. And it's up to you if you want to roll all the way onto the belly or just pause on the side. It doesn't matter. We'll eventually lift that same leg and cross it back to where it came from to roll back onto the back. And then we'll switch legs. So we're just starting with a little simple rolling to get the legs integrated into the core. You guys have all done this with me before, so you can move at your own pace. You're welcome to go from side to side or do a couple on one side and then a couple on the other side. The most important thing here is to be building the awareness of how the legs connect into the core. Most of our more challenging poses today are going to center around the legs connecting into the core. And if we keep that connection, we don't have to worry about straining anywhere. Our body will support us. And we'll do one more on each side and see if you can notice the breath as you continue to move. There's so much external feedback from the floor and all of your muscles. It's a little harder to notice the breath now. Be patient with yourself, but keep looking for it. And the next time you roll onto the back, just pause for a moment. Allow the arms to come back down to the sides. Notice any tingling or any just extra alertness in the body. And then gently start to drag the heels in towards the sits bones. Hey Joey, thanks for coming. It's nice to meet you. Drag the heels in towards the sits bones and pause with the soles of the feet down on the ground. Gently bring both hands to the tops of the thighs, and we don't want any strain here, but just gently press hands into the thigh bones and allow the thigh bones to gently press back into the hands, gently activating through the front of the hip. And then release that, and we're just going to do one side at a time. So let's start with the left side. Lift the left shin parallel to the earth, and same action. Gently press left hand and thigh together, just waking up the front of the thigh. And then do the same thing with the outside of the thigh. So gentle pressure, and just notice the hip adductors ever so gently firing. Then we're going to make this a little more interesting. So keeping that connection from thigh to hand, start to open the hip off to the side. So those muscles, you can feel them maybe engaging under your fingertips. And then this part is a little more challenging. We're going to keep those muscles firing as the hip comes back to where it was. And so play with those or that one range of motion. And notice as the knee comes off to the left, it's pretty natural for those muscles to engage. But if you keep the thigh pushing into the hand as the knee points up, we get something really nice called eccentric contraction, which is muscle engagement as the muscle lengthens. And we're going to play with that a lot in our class today. Take a few moments. And then the next time the knee points up, we're going to reverse it. So now bring the left hand to the inner thigh. Same thing, squeeze hand and thigh together. So you'll feel the inside of the thigh engage. You don't want it to be intense. Now let the knee start to fall off to the side. There's our eccentric contraction, right? The inner thigh is engaging as it lengthens. And now let the knee point up, and this is a little more common. Inner thigh engages as that muscle shortens. We're really going to favor the eccentric contraction. So that's when the knee is pointing off to the side, but there's still that engagement in the inner thigh. And so play with this range of motion, but really notice that almost it's slightly counterintuitive. You're like, wait, I'm pushing my leg up into my hand at the same time that it's falling off to the side. How is that even possible? It's a really great way to build strength in our muscles and become more graceful in our movements. Next time the knee points up, interlace the hands behind the thigh. Give the leg a little kick away from you into the basket of the hands. Again, we don't want any strain here, but just notice the back line of the leg engaging. And then keep that engagement as you pull the leg slightly towards you. So even though the leg is pulling towards you, it's gently kicking into the hands. And then lengthen the leg away, and just try that a couple of times. And then release the hands completely. They can go overhead or to T, whatever is comfortable. Bend the knee and just make some nice circles with the left knee. Doesn't have to be big circles, but we woke up a lot of muscles on the front, the back, inside, outside of the thigh. And now imagine all of those muscles evenly supporting you. So as you circle here, you have fluidity, ease. Doesn't matter how deep you go, you just want it to feel buoyant, spacious. Go the opposite direction. And then lengthen the leg away from you. Stretch arms overhead so the whole left side of the body is stretching long. And then we'll do that same thing on the second side. Drag the left leg in and lift the right shin. Right hand to thigh. Gentle squeeze. We never want there to be exertion. And release. You can squeeze and release a couple of times. And then bring the hand to the outer thigh. Gently squeeze thigh and hand together. Feel the outside of the thigh engage. And then just play with letting the knee open to the side and then point back up to where it came from. Continue on your own. And I just want to make sure you guys all look good, but feel free to stop and look at me if you're confused by this, because I know this is a little more technical. And once you feel like, okay, I've gotten to know the outside of my leg, you can switch to the inside. And Joey, I know this is your first class with me. I'm excited to find out what a balloon company is, but also it can be a little hard to follow if the yoga mat is not parallel with my yoga mat, and I just don't want you to be confused. So I don't know if it's possible to put the laptop on the bed that's next to you. We won't be laying down the whole time, so it'll be super easy to see me after this section. Okay, if you are still playing with the pressure on the inner thigh, we can interlace hands at the back of the thigh. Does that work, Joey? And then just flip the other way so that, or just flip, oh, actually, you're right. It should look like our heads are in the same spot. So I think I told you wrong. Yeah, you're good, sorry. This is the hardest part of class, I promise. Not yet. So with the hand basketed behind the thigh, just gentle pressure, no strain. Notice how the leg wants to travel away from you. You can't really allow it to travel without having really long hands. So instead, we'll play with that eccentric contraction by pulling the leg towards you, but keeping it engaged, right? So you can easily pull the leg towards you with no engagement. The hard part is kicking the leg into the hand as the leg pulls towards you. And just notice how that changes the quality of movement. Pulse the leg a couple of times. And then release the leg. Kick the leg apart, reach the arms overhead. Big stretch, feel the whole right side of the body open. And then drag the right heel in to meet the left. Float the hands overhead like zombie arms and float your legs. Feel the thigh bones and the arm bones gently drop down towards the floor, landing closer to the socket. And then roll on to the side that's facing me to start off with. And then lift your left arm. As the left arm lifts, notice how it connects into the core, and eventually just let the left leg lift effortlessly and roll over to the other side. We'll reverse that. So right hand lifts. I apologize if you're in a narrow space here. Maybe try bending the elbows. Maybe that will help. So the top arm leads. The top hip follows, so there's no strain. And then the bottom leg follows, and finally the bottom arm follows. And so let's roll back and forth like this, trying to feel how the arms connect to the core and how that helps the legs just pull over effortlessly, right? And so this is the sensation that we're going to be going for even when we're stretching the hips. We want to feel this ability of everything to stay connected. If we ever push too far into our poses, it starts to feel disjointed or unintegrated. And so let's just take a few more rolls to feel this quality of everything being connected. There not being any strain and maybe not even any sense of stretching, right? Just support. The next time you roll towards the screen, let the top leg come a little further away from you. Use the top hand to push up, and so the legs will be staggered. And then make a little spring with the, I don't think we're all on the same side. Now you can mirror me. Sorry, we didn't do the mirroring in the beginning, so I'm going to flip. That was crazy, right? My tattoo's on the other side now. And so we should have the left leg on top. So if your left leg's not on top, do a little swap, and then we should all be good. Okay, everybody left leg. So then this is your right hand. Is that right? Okay, yes, we did it. Okay, so take a couple of springs with your right arm. And you want this to be as effortless as possible, right? No strain. So if you feel any tension at the top, see if you can support yourself more from the back of the shoulder underneath the shoulder blade. You guys all look great. Okay, so now we're going to be a little sneaky. We're going to slide the hand along the mat so we can lie back down and roll over center to do the same thing on the other side. So I know you're not facing me anymore. You'll bounce on the left arm. And the right arm can stay heavy, or if you want it to swing overhead a little bit because that feels good, that's totally fine. Just be aware of the soft tissue in the hand at the base of the thumb, base of the pinky, being your main point of contact in that left hand. And then next time the forearm comes down, let it slide over. We'll roll over the back to the other side. Yes, you guys did it. So the real secret here is letting that arm slide underneath you for the most effortless roll. But we're just waking up the arms a little bit, and we don't want any strain, but just try to notice how the hand connects to the shoulder, connects into the torso, all the way down to the core. Let's do that one more time. So we'll slide over the right arm. Left arm tucks underneath so you can push up. Take a couple of pulses with the left. And then slide the left arm away from you so you can roll over your back all the way to the front side. But now we can pause, give your arms a little break. I'll demo this one time. So we'll just take one spring, push into the hand, and swing the left leg out into Parigasana. If you've got sensitive knees, just scooch right on back to your mat. So your right knee's on the mat, the left leg's out to the side. I'm going to turn for a moment so you can just see what my hips are doing, but then we'll stay in that orientation. So the hands down. Just take a couple of pulses into the left knee and start to become really interested in the inner thighs. Just notice the sensation there. Maybe you feel a stretch sensation. Maybe you feel some tightness. Now we're going to wake up the inner thighs a little bit. So push down into the left foot and the right knee. Slowly rise up, arms to T. Pretend you're really, really lazy, and I know none of you are because you actually made it to class. Let everything sink down. Let the left knee bend. Come into, we're going to call it a sloppy Parigasana, like with nothing activated. And then come up a couple of inches and notice what engages naturally as you just float out of your Parigasana. Feel the new engagement of the inner thighs and keep that engaged as you rebend the left knee. So we're no longer in a sloppy Gasana. Now that the inner thighs are engaged, just notice that sense of a little bit more support and take a couple of pulses up and down. But even as you go into the stretch, notice how that engagement stays with you. And to add the arms in here, the next time you bend into the knee, push down into the arms as if you were a bird flapping your wings, and imagine that just helping you hover an inch out of the pose, and then let the arms lift as you sink down, and then flap your wings. And just take a few of these effortless eagle wing Parigasanas. And then shift the weight over the right knee. Can allow the hands to drop and just take a slow circle with the shoulders. And bring your left hand to your left hip flexor, so the top of the left hip, right where the crease is, and start to bounce your left heel. And the reason why your finger is on the hip crease is we want our hip flexor to stay really soft. It's okay if it engages a little bit, but you don't want it to feel like a steel cable here. So try bringing the foot closer to you and try really relaxing so the heel pushing down into the ground is what's generating the bounce, and it's not your hip flexor engaging. And then play with bouncing the heel in front of you. And at this point, the hip flexor will engage, but hopefully it's still nice and soft and not tight. Let the left foot come in front of the right knee. Back to our eagle wings. Pause for a moment in our slack line lunge. And then release the hands inside the left foot. Let the right knee scooch back into the right just a little bit and let the hips soften. Just like we did in Parigasana, come up just an inch and notice the engagement that naturally happens through the inner thighs, connecting into the core. Just make some little circles here, releasing the psoas. This isn't a stretch. We really want to be gentle here and allow the femurs to naturally roll around in the hip socket. And then kick into the left heel, giving the left leg a little bit of length, and just pulse forward and back a couple of times, initiating the movement from the kicking of the heel. So there's just a little more awareness on the back of that left leg. And then as the hips come forward, keep that strength on the back of the leg, kind of like the sensation when you kicked the thigh into the basket of your hand. Try to feel that sense of support, eccentric contraction as the groin stretches and stays strong simultaneously. The next time the left knee bends, tuck right toes under, hover the right knee, and take a couple of bounces with the right leg, almost like you're a rubber band, stretching and releasing. If it feels okay on the knee, let the right foot start bouncing, almost like those bounces we did with the right hand. And then eventually let the bounces slowly make their way to your hands. So right foot steps outside of the right hand, bend both knees deeply, let the head hang heavy, sway the hips from side to side. And then walk the hands forward just a little bit so they're out of the way of your feet, and you can heel toe your feet underneath the hips. Send the weight back into the heels. Push down into the heels and slowly roll up one vertebra at a time. It always feels like a miracle the first time we make it to standing in class, so take a moment to feel excited to be in your body upright. Notice any sensations on the inside of your body. And then I guess that was mean because now we're going to go back down to the mat. So I hope you weren't too excited. But we're going to do it in a fun way. We're going to let the head get heavy and slowly roll down one vertebra at a time. And I know that can be frustrating and we can kind of like fake our way through it. Try to be really interested. Like, can I actually sense where my vertebrae are? And it's okay if you can't. This is the first step to turning that can't into a can. Let the sits bones stay heavy. That's going to help the low abdominals engage so that you can really control your way down. And then bend your knees as deeply as you need to let the belly rest on thighs and bring fingertips to the floor. Push the hands and fingertips down into the ground, letting the front of the body hollow out as you lift the back slightly. And then bend knees and repeat that a couple of times as if you were an octopus or a jellyfish propelling yourself through the beautiful Pacific Ocean, because I'm going to pretend you're all in Hawaii with me right now. But most of you are, actually. And just start to notice as the front line of the body, including the abdominals, start to engage and suck in and up. Notice any new awareness you have of your back, especially the vertebra and the low back. And the next time you lift, pause, heavy sits bones, slowly stack one vertebra at a time. And just notice how that little core work might have given you a little more refinement, a little more awareness as you do this. Head and neck come up last. And again, just pause for a moment and relish the arrival at standing. And then start to sweep the hands forward, send the hips back, chair pose. Bring weight into the heels, bring awareness into the back of the pelvis, and then slowly shift the knees forward just a little bit and then back. So we're just rocking forward and back on our feet a little bit. You don't want any pain in the knees ever, but you might notice pressure in the front of the knees, and you don't want that either. To avoid that, keep a little more weight in the heels, keep a little more muscular energy in the back of the body. Just little rocks, but you might notice your legs getting nice and warm, at least mine are. And then drop the arms Let the knees slide forward just a little bit, and then repeat. So hips back, arms swing forward, arms drop, and the knees slide forward. And start to pay attention to how when the knees come forward, you might be able to engage your core a little bit better. You might feel like that hugging in and up really lifting you. That's really going to help us later. Okay, now your legs are really tired. I had to make you want to lay down again, so now you get to lay down again. Step the feet a little wider, let the toes turn out, and we'll take some shifting malasanas. I'm turning just so you can see what this looks like. Let your hips sway from side to side as they lower, and then we're just going to bring hips all the way down at your own pace. You don't have to rush if you're enjoying it, but we will meet on our back. So if you're really excited to get there, you can win first place and get there right away, or just enjoy some more malasana. And then we just take a moment to let all that sink in. I was a little more technical than usual, so let's get out of the thinking mind and just reconnect with breath. Notice any new sensations in the body, any feelings of warmth, any feelings of space, or even little twinges, like maybe something was too much, and it's good to notice that without judgment. And now we will repeat that on the second side, and we'll skip some of the symmetrical stuff. That was just for the warm-up. So let's begin by dragging the heels in, pointing fingertips towards heels. Let's add a little bridge pose, guiding the knees forward, and as the knees reach forward, notice how the hips just naturally start to lift. We're not going for a deep back bend, but just gaze towards hips and knees and notice that straight line. Notice a sense of the thigh bone staying plugged into your core. And then set everything down. Knees and shins up, hands up, and roll to the left. We'll just take a couple of rolls from side to side like you did before. So top hand leads the way, top thigh follows, and the rest of the body follows while staying so integrated. And just for fun, try slowing down and just see if that awakens something different in you. Maybe you notice a new sensation on the back of the body or in the hip socket, or you remember the breath. And next time you roll to the left, push down into the left hand, stagger the legs. Ta-da, we're on the other side. Take a second to, it's like, woo. And then we take just a couple of pulses in that left arm, our springy arm. And just so our right arm doesn't feel left out, we'll slide the left arm, roll over to the other side, and take a spring on the right side. And then we'll roll back the way we came. And this time, as we spring into the left arm, it's eventually going to take us towards Parigasana. So the next time the left hand comes down to the mat, push down into the left knee, let the right leg swing out and forward, and I'm turning just so you guys can see the orientation of my hips being open. If the left knee is sensitive, scooch right on back onto your mat. And then just take a couple of pulses with the left hand down, right? This is the moment where we start to integrate the thighs into the core. It's fun to bend the right knee and lift the right hand at the same time, as long as that's comfortable on the low back and the left hip socket. Next time the right hand drops, push down into left knee and right foot to slowly rise up, arms to T, and now we do our sloppy pose with no muscular activation, and then come out of it. And as you come back up just an inch or two, notice how holistically the inner thighs and the core fire to support you. Keep all of that on as you rebend the knee. And now take some pulses in this integrated Parigasana and just start to notice any sensations on the inner thighs. You might even feel those sensations traveling up to the core. You might notice you can stand up a little taller through the spine. And breathe deeply as you pulse here. And we'll add in the arms. So the next time your knee bends more, push down into the arms like an eagle, pushing air away. Let that take you up. And then bend into the knee, let the arms go up. Arms flap down, you come up. Knee bends, the arms float up. Just take a couple of pulses. And honestly, you can do whatever you want with your arms. So if that's not making sense or it's not feeling good, let the arms do something else. And then from center, relax the arms down, right hand to the hip flexor, and we walk the right heel in just a little bit and start to bounce the right heel, but try to stay really relaxed, right? So it might mean these bounces are really tiny, something that's not really overexerting in the hip flexors, and then start to bounce the heel in front of you so it eventually steps right in front of the right knee. Arms can come to T for balance as you do that because it's actually pretty hard. And then hands inside the foot. Extend left knee to the left and back a little bit. Hips get heavy towards the mat and then come up just an inch like we did before and make your circles. And just notice how coming out of it an inch makes this more integrated. You might not feel a stretch anywhere. In fact, I hope you don't. Right? If you're like, oh, whoa, I'm stretching a lot, try coming out of it even more and notice if that helps you make smoother circles. Right? We're going for an experience of smoothness, not that like pulling Laffy Taffy resistance. You guys all know what I'm talking about. And then go the opposite direction. Keep breathing. Okay, so tuck toes under, lift the back knee, and start to bend and extend the knee so the left leg feels really springy. It's almost like the left leg wants to like shoot your head towards the side of the wall like an arrow. Don't worry, that's not going to happen. But start bouncing that left leg even more. Take a few bounces, feel the leg connecting into the core. Notice how the whole body is participating. And then eventually let that left leg step forward outside of the left hand. Bend knees deeply. Head hangs heavy. Push into the feet a little bit to allow the legs to lengthen without any strain. And then send the weight back into the heels. Push down into the feet and slow motion. One vertebra at a time, and I really mean it, so take your time. When you arrive at the top, we'll start to play with those chair pulses again. So hands sweep forward, hips back. Feel a little more weight in the heels, and then start to shift the thigh bones forward. Let the body lift a little and let the arms swing back. And then arms swing forward and hips back into chair. And just start to rock forward and back. Again, keep most of the weight in the heels, so there's no pressure in the front of the knees even as they shift forward. But notice as the knees shift forward, the quadriceps starting to connect up into the front of the core. If you want to let the heels lift, that's actually pretty fun. As the knees slide forward, let the heels lift again, as long as there's no pain anywhere or even like intense pressure. And then pause in your chair, bow forward, let the head hang heavy. I don't know about you guys, but that really tires out my legs quickly. So now we're going to imagine that the core is going to take all the work out of the legs. So push gently into the feet and the hands to suction the core up just like we did before. And imagine the strong muscles of the core lifting up so that the legs don't have to do so much work. See if you can let the legs relax a little bit. Take a load off. Make sure you can still breathe. And then eventually weight into the heels and roll up one vertebra at a time. We're going to do something crazy. We're going to go to the next song right in the middle of our vinyasa. But we're about to do our standing sequence. I feel like we need a little bit more juice. So if you're playing the playlist, the next song is Where the Owls Roost. And Joey, next time I'll send you all the info so you can get the playlist. There is a link written out on the screen, so if you love music, you can check out the link. All right, so from standing, take a moment, just rock forward and back on the feet, but be really gentle here. Just use this as a moment to get to know the soles of the feet. Bring extra awareness to your foundation. And then arms heavy, sits bones heavy. Start to send the hips back as you sweep the arms forward. And then shift the weight into the left foot and let the hands swing back. Slowly start to drag the right foot back as the arms reach forward like a counterweight. And then turn the right toes out. Let the left toes turn in slightly so you're in a goddess pose facing me. Great. And we're going to play back and forth here a couple of times. So left leg, left arm, internally rotate at the same time. And then externally rotate. And then the right side. So imagine you're almost like a marionette puppet. And I find it really helpful to dig the toes down, almost like you're digging the back toes down into sand. And just notice how that integrates the muscles in the back leg. You might even feel the musculature rising up the back of the hip. And so this is a transition we're going to do in a more natural way through our balancing sequence. So we'll start to add on to it. The next time the left toes dig down, let the hips turn to face the short edge of the mat. So you keep the right toes turning out, left hands back, right arms forward. Shift the weight into the right foot and slowly lift the left leg. Pull left knee and right elbow together and then go back to where you came. And do a couple of these. And actually you can let the left foot be a little closer in so it's not so intense. So imagine it's more, and try to get a little springy here. And then bring both hands in so we've got kind of like a jazzercise motion happening. Yeah, smile if you want to smile, it's okay. And then get really springy here so it feels easy. So Joey, try bringing the back foot a little closer so you don't have to work so hard to lift it. Unless that feels awesome. If it feels awesome, ignore me and just keep doing what you're doing. And so you guys all look very springy and natural. Now we're going to try to slow it down. So it's going to take a little more control, a little more muscular energy, but see if you have that control. We'll just do it 1 or 2 times. Start to twist towards the left leg. Feel the left side of the body engage a little extra. And then left foot reaches back, left arm reaches forward. And then we go through our marionette goddess pose. So left toes turn out, left arm turns out. And then we push down with the right hand back to the initial way. But now we're going to play with that left leg. So shift onto the left foot. Just let the right leg hover and reach the right arm forward. So you've got a long line of energy from right fingertips to right heel. And then we're back at the beginning. So right toes drop, right arm and right knee externally rotate. Take a moment in your goddess. And then we go back to the right. So dig the left toes in, turning. When you're ready, you've got some options here. So you can take the little springs that we did at first. You can take the bigger springs if you feel ready for it. You can do some slow motion springs with twists, but give yourself the opportunity to play a little bit and actually feel like, what do I want to explore? Options, yay. Oh, that's cool, Angeli. The next time the left knee lifts, see if you can pause there. Twist towards it slightly. And then swing left arm forward, left leg back, through goddess, open to the left. Keep turning to the right. And now launch onto the left foot. Reach right arm and foot apart for flying warrior. You can come out of this at any time, but if it's feeling good, breathe and pause. Bend the left knee a little bit. Try to stay springy. Notice the angle of where your right foot is pointed. Sometimes it's a little off to the side. We're going to do a little experiment. Drop the right toes down. Come back through goddess. Last round, I promise. I know this is a big one. Now we're going to work with the integration of the thighs that we've been doing in Parigasana. So push the arms down. Let yourself rise out of this just an inch or two, and just notice that sensation of the inner thighs pulling in and up and supporting you. And just take some baby pulses here, noticing underneath the thighs a sense of buoyancy lifting you and helping you feel light and springy. The more we start to engage our adductors here without strain, the more our next Virabhadrasana 3 might feel a little more integrated from the inner thigh. So we just want to play here a little bit, and then we'll see how it affects our pose. Okay, so last one. Turn to the right. You've got your options of how you want to pulse. You can imagine this as like I'm trying to store up as much energy as possible on that left side of my body with all these springs and twists, that when I spiral to the left for Virabhadrasana 3, that left leg just feels like full of energy, ready to support me. Next time the left leg lifts, pause. It's going to be the one rooted in a second, so give it a little break, shake it out. And then swing left arm forward, left leg back, left toes down through goddess. Take one moment, hug in and up. Keep all that engaged as you keep turning to the right. And now we launch, and let the inner thigh lift a little bit more. Feel how that pulls into the core, and maybe you can reach even longer, but feel more integrated. Take one more breath. Whew. And then drop the right toes down, drop the hands down, and slide the left foot up and back for three-legged dog. Options: pause in three-legged dog, pause in normal dog, or you can even make some circles with the left hip if the body wants to explore some hip mobilization. It's totally up to you. And then we'll swing the left knee forward in between the hands, and keep the heel underneath the body so you're not in deep external hip rotation. And just point and flex the right foot a few times. As you do this, notice the same feeling that we've been exploring of the legs integrating up into the core, right? So you're not getting some deep, intense stretch. Instead, you're feeling how much the whole body is related and even. The next time the hips push back, if it's comfortable, you can bring the back knee down, but you don't have to. With fingertips down on the mat, drag the hands back, let the body lengthen forward. Option to bend the back knee, just to see how that feels. Keep things moving. If you bend the back knee, do some windshield wiper so nothing locks up. And then extend the right leg back. Shift the weight onto the left hip. Pull the right knee in, and we're sort of back at the beginning because we're not doing the laying down on the back stuff anymore. So let's play with a little bit of internal and external rotation of the legs. I like lifting my hands through the center and then dropping them at either side. And give yourself some space, so maybe play with walking the legs forward a little bit if that's more comfortable, or the feet rather, so they're not so close into the body. Okay. The next time the knees fall over to the right, pause there. Okay, I can't help it. Just for fun, play with pushing down to the knees and see if it's comfortable to lift the hips. You can take a couple of pulses. It's a great way to play with internal and external rotation and seeing if you can load those muscles safely. And just to keep the body balanced, rotate the legs the other way and take a couple of pulses there. It's okay if you don't feel cool as you do this. It is cool. It's great to have functional internal and external rotation of the hip. Lower the hips, roll the legs over to the right, and then let's just add in those arm springs. I feel like we haven't played with our arms in a little while. And if you want, you can allow the left arm to start unfurling. So as you reach over, just notice how the left arm almost just wants to shoot out from the body. And the next time you lower down, pause for a moment. Let the left arm reach long. Imagine you're inside like a Super Mario tube and you're trying to explore the edges of it. Let the forearm graze forward in an arc and then up and back. And just notice how the arms integrate into the core. And so it's not so much an exploration of the shoulder, but letting the arm spiral the spine open. Yeah, you guys got it. Nice. The next time you're up, push into the right hand, coming up, and then we'll take our transition into Parigasana. So right hand down, pivot over the right knee, let the left leg swing. Take a pulse here, left arm up as you bend into the knee. And then drop the left hand, roll up, arms to T. Take a couple of pulses, and just notice if it's feeling more natural to keep that buoyancy in the pelvis and avoid any sense of like really dumping into the hips. And now, instead of all those bounces, see if you can just take one big bounce to step the foot in front of the right knee. And it's okay if you can't. You can take as many as you want, but it's kind of fun. Awesome. You guys rocked that. Drop the hands inside of the left foot. Extend the right foot back. This is our second time on this side, so we're going to add on. Keep the back leg lifted. Let the hips drop for lizard, and then our theme for this class, come up an inch or two. And notice how the inner thighs integrate. And then slowly start to extend the left leg, lift the left toes, and drop the head, modified Parsvottanasana. Notice how this really helps you lift the legs in and up along the spine. And then keep all of that integration as you bend the left knee and lower the hips just a little back to lizard. And then we'll just play between those two shapes. But again, the goal is going to keep connecting the legs to the core. So Parsvottanasana, as you kick down into the legs, you really feel that integration, and then you keep it as you lower the hips down. And the next time the hips lower, bend the back knee, spring it up and down a couple of times, and then take as many hops as you need to step the right foot outside the hands, bend the knees, head hangs heavy. Slow motion, roll up. You guys are better than me. I got up and then I was like, wow, they're still halfway down. Way to go, you win. You beat the teacher. Swing arms forward, hips back, chair pose. And then lift the heels, knees forward, hands back, and just play with a couple of those swings. Yeah, we're not going to add on to this one yet. The next time you send the hips back, shift the weight into the right foot, swing the arms back, and now the left leg slowly glides back as the arms reach forward for counter balance. And then externally rotate the left side of the body for goddess. And then keep on turning so we can do our little jazzercise kicks. So I know the foot starts out quite far, but let it bounce in so that the kicks can be pretty little and controlled. We really want to feel like a little kid bouncing on a trampoline, like totally effortless, springy. And then start to explore. Maybe slowing down, maybe lengthening out, noticing a sense of control, but still like that inner quality of springiness. The next time the knee lifts, twist into the right leg and just feel the whole right side of the body engage. And then reach the right leg back and right arm forward, toes down, externally rotate right side for goddess. and then keep on turning to the right. Launch onto the right foot, left arm reaches, left leg reaches back. Pause for as long as you want. Notice the direction of the toes. And then in a moment, we're going to wake up those inner thighs a little bit more and see if that just helps you point the toes down and lift from the inner thigh. Drop the left toes, rotate back through goddess all the way to the original side, and then take your bounces however you want. They can be little tiny springy bounces or big dramatic controlled bounces. Just try to feel what your body is enjoying, not what your mind thinks is like the most beneficial, because that's a joke. The next time you lift, pause there, twist into the leg. Always good to find a drishti in these balancing sequences. And then reach the arms forward, leg back, toes down. Pivot through goddess. Let's pause here for just a couple of pulses, letting everything hug in and up, feeling that integration and the support. Check in with your knees. Totally fine for knees to go past ankles as long as there's no pressure on the inside of the knees or the front of the knees. If that's the case, change the angle of the toes to match the angle of the thigh bones, and it should feel a little bit more supported. Nice. Okay, so let's try that again and just see if the legs feel a little more integrated. So, uh-oh, I got mixed up. Okay, I know we didn't do, well, okay, let's just do our Vira 3. We don't have the momentum. Sorry, I messed that order up. But we'll just take a moment in Vira 3, and then we'll do it one more time with momentum. So left toes drop, pivot through goddess, and then take your bounces with the right knee lifting. And then twist into the right leg. Imagine this moment of storing energy through the right spiral line of the body. And then reach the arms forward, toes back. Quickly we'll go through goddess and just launch right onto the right leg into Vira 3. And just notice if that inner left leg can lift a little bit more towards the sky so the toes point down more. Reach the left hand and the left foot apart. Continue to breathe. And then toes down, hands down. Slowly glide the right leg back and up. And then do whatever you did on the first side. So either stay here, drop the leg in down dog, or make a couple of little circles with the hip socket. And then swing the right knee in between the hands. Keep the heel underneath the body. And take a couple of pulses in our active pigeon. Keep a little bend in the knee so the arms stay springy, even though the shoulders aren't the focal point. We want everything to be springy. And notice that same quality of the inner thigh, like drawing in and up. A little more awareness of how the legs integrate through the pelvic floor into the rest of our core. And then option next time the hips press back to lower the knee, traction the hands forward to lengthen the spine, and maybe even bend the back leg and take a couple of little windshield wipers. Okay, so we've done pigeon on both sides. So we're going to play for a moment of just rolling from side to side. So let the right hip drop towards the mat, letting the hips open towards the screen. And kick the left leg into the mat, kind of like the digging the toes in the sand in goddess pose, just to really activate the muscles in the leg. And then just make some circles with the top arm. Just making sure that the hip socket is not locking up, right? So this is a great way to test, like, am I still buoyant? Am I still supported? And you guys all look good. And then let the left knee come in towards the foot, hands up, roll over the midline, left hand down, and now slowly extend the right leg back so you're in the same pose on the other side. kick the toes into the mat and then make your circles. I really enjoy circling my hand on the thigh and then low, forward, up, and back. That really trying to like reach the front of my body long out of the quads and up the front of the spine. And then drag the right knee in, roll back to the original side. Right hand down, extend the left leg, take a circle here, and then you've got options. You can either keep circling like we've done, or if you want to roll back into pigeon and just see how this second round feels, you're welcome to. I also recommend coupling that with dropping the toes, kicking into the front leg for whatever this is. It's like down dog, but the front leg is crossed, so you get a nice IT band stretch. And then bend that knee, coming back into pigeon. And we have the option for the same thing on the second side. So you'll roll open, left knee in, arms up, roll through the center. Left hand down, extend the leg. Make your circle and either just stay here. This is really beneficial as long as there's not any pressure in that knee. And then option to plant the hands, roll through pigeon, so you get a second round with the left leg in front. Option to bend the back knee. And then if you did take pigeon, plant both feet, kick into the front leg, letting it extend the hips up for cross leg down dog. And then slowly lower the knee and bring the right knee in just like we did before. Oh, great, we still have time for our peak moment. So raise your hand if your hips are really warm and integrated and you want to try something. Okay, if you're not raising your hand, then you're welcome to continue playing with this more therapeutic sequence of pigeon on both sides and the internal and external rotation. If everyone who raised their hand, we're going to play with Hanumanasana, which is the fancy way of saying the splits, but we're going to do it at the wall because this is my favorite way to do it, and it's the most integrated. And so you'll come to a wall and you'll do three-legged down dog, but the interesting part is how you tuck your toes under. You can play with lifting the bottom leg, and it integrates the legs into the core so nicely. And then as you come down, you might notice like, oh wow, I actually have quite a bit of room to stretch my hips towards the wall, but you keep yourself honest by repeating it, because if you can keep moving, then nothing is straining, nothing is locking up, but it's when we hold and we push that we go too far. Oh, okay, and so just in case you didn't see, you start at down dog, walk the hands towards the wall a little bit, lift one leg, tucking the toes under. It's fine for that knee to bend any amount. And then you push into the hands and slowly hover the bottom leg. If it doesn't feel comfortable to put that much weight in the hands, you can just pulse the hips towards and away from the wall. But if it feels good, it's really fun to lift the leg, keeping the hips square, and then drop the leg and gently guide the hips closer to the wall like you're doing the splits. So feel free to try it. Remember, the key is integration. So make sure you can breathe. Make sure you can feel the way the legs are connecting into the core. And of course, the shoulders are working quite hard, so just make sure nothing is locking up in the neck and shoulders. Nice, Diana. And take your time, but eventually switch sides. Great, Jamie. Yeah, cool. And when you've had enough, no rush, keep doing what you're doing, but when you've had enough, we'll meet back on the mat, either seated on the heels, or you can take a Bhaktasana. It's nice to stay introverted. Inversions can be really energizing. Everybody okay? Lots of double thumbs up. Yes, okay, cool. I hope you keep that one. That's one of my favorites. So now, because you earned it, right? You worked hard at the wall where things are really integrated. We will have the opportunity to try Hanumanasana in a little more traditional way, but not too traditional, because let's be real, I'm still teaching. And so we want that same experience of feeling everything integrated. So it's going to be similar to our pigeon, but now you'll have the option of letting the front leg extend. So we're sideways, right? And what I like about this is, like, you have to have the muscular strength to extend the legs, and then we explore in those same circles. And then if it feels good and you're like, yeah, this feels really buoyant, nothing's locking up, you plant the hands to either side of the front leg and you lift the hips, and then you play in the more traditional way, staying buoyant. And then you go back through center, you make sure nothing's talking to you or uncomfortable, and play the other way. You're also welcome to keep playing with pigeon, right? I am teaching these more challenging poses because we're in an upper level hips training right now, but that doesn't mean that everybody should do upper level hips poses, right? So really try to feel whether this is benefiting your body, whether your nervous system is feeling relaxed, or if it's not, stick to the pigeons, because you guys all looked awesome doing that. And it's the exact same sequence, right? The only difference is whether the front leg is extended or not. Nice. And then once you've balanced out sides, if you want to, and this is definitely not for everyone, from the extended position, the back leg, if the toes turn up and that sit bone drops, you can just take a moment and a wide straddle, just feeling the experience of the groin connecting up into the core one last time. And then bring the fingertips behind the knees and gently start to bend the knees, letting the heels come in, letting the legs come together. And without overdoing it, just gently let the legs hug, right? Let everything fully connect. It's almost like you're a mermaid or a merman, and you can feel your mermaid tail integrated into your core, and just make some circles with the shoulders as if there was like a giant pencil on your head and you were drawing some big circles on the ceiling. Or actually a paintbrush. That sounds like it would be a lot smoother of an experience. You can go the opposite direction. And then pause at center, cross the right leg over the left, and gently hug the inner thighs together and rotate the knees from side to side. And bring your awareness to the outside of the leg. So even though the thighs are squeezing gently to bring the legs together, notice how that lengthens. The outer hip, the IT band. And then from center, switch the cross of the legs, and same thing. Notice a sense of massaging the outer hip and staying integrated, letting everything be supported by the core. And then uncross the legs and hover the shins. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see this. Let the hands lift And kick one leg off at a time and try, I stole this cue from I think both Diana and Anjali, try to take up as much space as possible. Just spreading the arms out, kicking the legs out, leaning back. And just notice with all the integrative work you've done with the core, how much you can express your limbs as an emanation of your strong center. And then eventually make your way back to center, soles of feet down, hands forward, and ever so gently control your descent onto your back. Let your shoulders anchor into the earth. Let the fingertips reach towards the heels. Walk the legs in so the feet, the ankles are just above the knees. And then ever so gently guide the thigh bones forward, just letting the front of the hips lift. Bend the elbows and push them down into the ground. So you feel the triceps anchor, and notice if that helps you open the heart a little bit more. Tuck the chin, let the back of the neck lengthen. And then slowly release one vertebra at a time. Keep the arms in that like a robot posture and push into elbows, push into shoulders, and push into the base of the neck, letting that diamond lengthen. And then walk the feet wider than the hips. Let the arms relax, either down by your side or up overhead, and just ever so gently windshield wiper the legs. And notice how, even without any effort here, how the legs connect into the back of the hip and the low back. The connection of the thighs into the core that controls this windshield wiper so the legs don't just flop from side to side. If you want to pause as one thigh internally rotates and just breathe there for a moment, you're welcome to. And then if you did pause there, rotate to the other side and just check in with the knee. You don't want any pressure on the inside of the knee. And so if you feel that, try lifting the knee just a little bit, pushing down into the foot a little bit extra so more muscles in the leg engage. The knee doesn't come, the hip doesn't come into such deep internal rotation. And then slowly point both knees up. Let the sacrum get really, really heavy. Imagine the sacrum weighs 1,000 pounds and it's just anchoring you into the earth. The sacrum is the bony plate that connects the spine to the center of the pelvis. Just connect with the breath for a moment. And then lift the legs, grab behind the thighs, and gently rock and roll forward and back. Take your time, enjoy, but eventually rock all the way up. We'll have a few minutes for meditation, and then a few minutes for Shavasana. If you've got a cushion, if you've got a cushion or a blanket or a chair, whatever you'd like to sit on, feel free to grab it. Pause your music. Take a sip of water. And as you find a comfortable seat, If it's comfortable, you can close the eyes and just notice the foundation of your legs. Notice any sense of the legs supporting you in a really effortless way. Notice the relationship of the legs and the hip socket. And perhaps there's a little bit more ease in the hip socket, and this might feel more natural or supported than usual. And start to notice the breath. And there's a tendency, as soon as you notice the breath, to want to change it. And so see if you can imagine almost like you're holding on to control of your breath, and you're just slowly relinquishing that control, letting the fingers ungrip, the palm open, and just letting the breath come and go as it pleases. And interestingly enough, the work we did with the legs integrating into the core, it is literally linked to the diaphragm, the main muscle of respiration. And so just notice as you observe the breath any potential for it to be smoother than the beginning of class, or calmer, maybe even slower, more effortless. Just imagine all the work you've done over the past 75 minutes helping you to breathe as optimally as possible, not by thinking about it, just by letting it emerge. And to continue observing the breath with more energy, more Shakti, we'll attach the natural breath mantra Hum Sa. So as you observe your next inhale, silently whisper to yourself the syllable hum, H-A-M. And as you observe your next natural exhale, repeat the syllable Sa, S-A-H. Imagine the mantra so intertwined with the breath. It's as if the breath is generating these sacred syllables and you're just listening for them. And the magic of this mantra, it's a living mantra that was given to this lineage by a realized master, Swami Muktananda, and it contains almost like a treasure map to the inner self. And so each time we repeat it and bring as much focus and surrender as we're capable, the closer it'll take us to that goal of the inner self. We don't need to understand it or even know what the inner self is. Just repeat the mantra and feel it pulling you deeper and deeper inside. You're welcome to stay upright, continuing to repeat the mantra in this way. And you're also welcome to recline in Shavasana. Both are wonderful ways to absorb your practice. And so try to feel inside what would be the most nourishing for you right now. Just take a moment to observe your body as a whole collective of happy cells. Observe your breath. And then start to make gentle movements without losing that connection to wholeness. And take your time moving the joints and eventually rolling to one side and pressing up to a seat. We'll meet with hands gently resting on the heart. Close the eyes and try to feel that connection between the hands and this outer world and the heart, this vast inner world that we connect to each time we practice. And let your next 3 breaths just help seal the connection between those 2 worlds. Thank you so much for practicing today. I hope your bodies feel wonderful, and more importantly, I hope your hearts feel nourished. See you guys soon. Feel free to ask any questions. Otherwise, have a great rest of your Sunday. Aloha. Thanks for coming, Alice. Nice to meet you, Joey. Great to see you, Angeli. I miss getting to see you every Sunday. I guess so, right? Or move out to Hawaii, either way. Yeah. Take care. Hey, Diana, great to see you. Thanks for coming. Oh, yay. I'm so glad that you get to see her in this context too. Maybe there's a way that we could have a fun little gathering, maybe for your final teaching or something if you wanted to. I don't know if that would make you nervous, but she's the most supportive person in the world, so that could. Yeah, he is recovering, and he said he's past the you know dangerous part, but it's definitely been taxing, and so he's regaining his strength. But hopefully he'll be back soon. Um, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, so that way I can see the whole sequence, and the way you submitted it before was excellent. Did my feedback make sense? Exactly. Exactly. And honestly, we try to give you a couple different methods just so you can explore and see what you like. But if this second method is not resonating, like how you said, if you feel like it's almost too much, you're I want to repeat it, and it's almost confusing to be forced to continue on without repeating it, you don't have to do that. The way your first class was structured was perfect. And so if you really like that way, I would be totally fine with you only writing classes that way for a while. We just like to, like the second way is a little bit closer to how I structure my classes. So sometimes people like want to do that, but it's not a requirement. That's amazing. That's pretty cool. You have a lot of creative juices flowing. Well, I think it's awesome that you're inspired, like there's two ends of the spectrum. I feel like that's a fun end to be on. And it'll get easier. I think one of the hardest things is timing. Like literally knowing like, oh, okay, this will take an hour. And that's something that we can't really teach you. It's based on experience, and the more you teach. And I'm curious, of course, you'll have time to teach me more, but do you have like any friends or family members that are interested in yoga that would like want to be your guinea pig? I feel like it could be really fun if you could teach someone either in person or on Zoom and like realize if you wrote this much, like, whoa, this is how much I actually get to. I think it would be empowering, like you'd feel like, wow, I really am prepared, but oh, that's so great. Yay. Yeah, I was thinking that you know, time-wise, like in during the training, people usually only teach, like 8 to 10 minutes, and then towards the end, there's one longer chunk. But because you're sort of doing things at your own pace, it could be really nice to, you're ready to teach. You're a great teacher. So I feel like if you have guinea pigs, you're definitely at a very qualified level where I know they'd be in good hands and they would benefit tremendously. So I think that would be awesome. Yeah. Oh my gosh, not at all. I'm so glad we get to connect and let me know. Did you see that note on, I think it was the last Facebook, like I wrote so many different messages, but the final one said, let me know if you want to teach me in person for the next round or if you're fine with the recording, because I just um, feel like it must be hard to not like look up and see someone and just like almost be imagining in your mind that, so I'd be happy to meet up with you if you like want that. But cool. Yeah, and one thing, with the beginners, it's harder as a teacher because it's like you have to tell them everything or they're not, they're going to do, well, things that don't make sense or aren't what you're trying to get them to do, which actually makes it really good practice, and you probably would only get to like one or two Lego blocks, because it would take more explanation. But I definitely think that would be great practice of like really getting the foundational aspects of poses, and it might be less about intricate sequences and really more about like teaching Parapurna Navasana to someone who has never done it, and so that's really cool, but it would be slightly different, but still a good experience. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. Yay. Well, you're a go-getter. It's so cool to hear that you're taking advantage of your new skill and sharing it with people. Yeah, yeah. I still take that much time. Like it's, but luckily it's fun, right? I'm like, oh yay! Every time I write a class, I'm like, I'm doing yoga, and it has become like the only way that I really do yoga, is like having this weekly class and having like the pressure of like I have to be prepared. So I'm really grateful because it like keeps me really strong in my practice too. Oh, yay! I'm so glad. Well, so fun to get to connect, and I'm sure we'll be in touch real soon. Ha- Bye. Have a good week.